Hello, my friends. Welcome back. I hope your day is peaceful. Today, I want to share a story with you. A story about words. Words that make people laugh. Words that make people cry. Words that have traveled across centuries and are still alive today. Can you imagine one person changing the way the whole world speaks English? That person was born more than 400 years ago. Yet his words still echo in books, on stages, and in the hearts of millions. His name was William Shakespeare. He was born in 1564 in a small English town called Stratford-upon-Avon, a quiet place with a slow river and simple streets. His father, John Shakespeare, made leather gloves. His mother, Mary Arden, came from a family that owned land. William was the third child and grew up with many brothers and sisters. As a boy, he studied at a grammar school where students learned Latin, read old stories, and studied poetry. William loved words. He loved how they sounded when spoken aloud and how stories created pictures in the mind. But life was not always easy. His family did not have much money, and he had to leave school early to help his father. Still, he never left stories behind. At 18, he married Anne Hathaway, who was 8 years older than him. Soon they had a daughter named Susanna, and later twins named Hamlet and Judith. William was now a husband and a father, and he needed to provide for his family. Stratford-upon-Avon was a small market town, a place of familiar faces and limited horizons. For a young man with a restless mind, it offered few opportunities. One day, William made a decision that would alter the course of his life, and indeed, the future of the English language. He left the quiet streets of Stratford behind and embarked on the long journey to London. The precise reasons for his departure are lost to the mists of time, a mystery historians still debate. Perhaps he was fleeing from debt or seeking to escape a mundane existence. Or perhaps he was chasing a dream, a powerful and persistent dream filled with the echoes of stories and the magic of the stage. London, in the late 16th century, was a world away from the tranquil life he had known. It was a sprawling, chaotic metropolis, its narrow streets teeming with a crush of humanity. The air was thick with the smells of industry and the ever-present threat of disease, a stark contrast to the open fields of Warwickshire. Yet, for all its dangers, London pulsed with an undeniable energy, a vibrant current of opportunity. And at the heart of this thriving city were its theaters, the grand arenas of public entertainment. The theater was a powerful force in Elizabethan society, a place where the entire spectrum of London life converged. The wealthy, in their fine silks and velvets, occupied the sheltered galleries, while the common folk, known as groundlings, stood in the open yard before the stage, exposed to the elements. But regardless of their station, they all came for the same reason: to be transported by a story. It was here, amidst the roar of the crowd and the passion of the players, that William found his calling. When he first arrived in London, he was just another face in the crowd. A man without name, fortune, or influential patrons. He took on whatever work he could find within the theater's walls, starting with the most humble of jobs. He likely held horses, prompted actors, and moved scenery, all the while observing, listening, and absorbing the intricate machinery of stagecraft. He watched how a well-turned phrase could silence a rowdy audience, how a compelling plot could hold thousands in suspense. Slowly, meticulously, he learned the alchemist's art of turning words into worlds. After a time of apprenticeship and observation, William began to write. His initial efforts were likely simple, collaborations or revisions of older works. But soon, audiences and fellow playwrights began to notice something unique, a spark of genius in the lines he crafted. His characters did not speak in the stiff, formal language of the past. They spoke with a raw and relatable humanity. Their words resonated with the joys, sorrows, and complexities of everyday life, forging a powerful connection with those who listened. Gradually, the name Shakespeare became a whisper, then a conversation, and finally a roar in the theaters of London. He penned a torrent of masterpieces that would become cornerstones of Western literature. He gave the world Romeo and Juliet, the timeless and tragic tale of two young lovers caught between the hatred of their feuding families. He created Hamlet, the story of a Danish prince tormented by grief, revenge, and the painful weight of moral choices. In Macbeth, he explored the corrosive nature of unchecked ambition and the bloody path to power. And with A Midsummer Night's Dream, he wove a magical, comedic tapestry of love, mistaken identity, and mischievous fairies in an enchanted forest. Through his unparalleled command of language and his profound insight into the human heart, William Shakespeare, the boy from Stratford, transformed the stage into a mirror for all humanity. In the heart of England, a name was born that would echo through the corridors of time, belonging to a man whose imagination would shape the very language we speak. This is the story of William Shakespeare, not as a distant legend, but as a living, breathing artist whose journey from a small town to the world stage was fueled by genius, ambition, and the timeless power of storytelling. His life began in Stratford-upon-Avon, a bustling market town, where he was born to a glovemaker and a farmer's daughter. In a world lit by candlelight and bound by tradition, young William's mind was ignited by the stories he heard, the people he observed, and the traveling players who brought tales of kings and clowns to his doorstep. He attended the local grammar school, where he was immersed in Latin and classical literature, unknowingly gathering the tools that would later build empires of words. This foundation, laid in the quiet streets of his hometown, was the silent beginning of a revolution in literature, a prelude to a legacy that would become immortal. But Stratford's horizons were too narrow for a spirit so vast. Driven by a burning ambition, Shakespeare made the journey to London, a sprawling, chaotic metropolis teeming with danger, opportunity, and the raw energy of the Renaissance. The city was a crucible of creativity, and it was here that his destiny truly began to unfold. He did not work alone. He found his place among a brotherhood of actors, joining a renowned company called the Lord Chamberlain's Men. This troupe, which would later be honored with the title of the King's Men, became his creative family. Together, they brought stories to life on the stages of London, most famously at the Globe Theatre, a magnificent wooden O open to the sky. Within its circular walls, audiences from all walks of life, from nobles to groundlings, stood mesmerized. When the English rain fell, actors and patrons alike might get wet, yet the spell of the performance was too strong to be broken. No one dared to leave, for the worlds Shakespeare crafted were far more compelling than the world outside. Shakespeare's genius was not confined to the writer's desk. He was a man of the theater through and through. He walked the boards himself, taking on roles that, while perhaps not the lead, gave him an unparalleled insight into the mechanics of performance. By acting on stage, he learned the rhythm of speech, the impact of a dramatic pause, and the delicate dance between dialogue and emotion. This intimate understanding of the actor's craft allowed him to write lines that were not merely poetic, but profoundly playable. Dialogue that felt real and raw in the mouths of his fellow players, As his fame grew, so did his fortune. The boy from Stratford became a successful playwright and a shrewd businessman, earning money from his sold-out plays, investing in theaters like the Globe, and purchasing property that secured a comfortable life for his family back home. Yet, for all his worldly success, his stories never lost their connection to the core of the human experience. With every play, he continued to explore the universal truths of love and loss, ambition and betrayal, fear and hope. Beneath the surface of his public triumphs, however, lay a deep and private sorrow. His only son, Hamlet, was taken by illness at the tender age of 11. This devastating loss cast a long shadow over Shakespeare's heart, a grief that is believed to have profoundly shaped the emotional depth of his later tragedies. The anguish of a father mourning his child echoes in the powerful soliloquies of his most iconic characters, lending his work a heartbreaking authenticity that continues to resonate with audiences centuries later. In his final years, he retreated from the frenetic pace of London and returned to the familiar comforts of Stratford-upon-Avon, a celebrated figure now living a quieter life. William Shakespeare died in 1616 at the age of 52, and was laid to rest in the same church where he had been baptized as a child, bringing his journey full circle. But his story did not end with his death. The ink on his pages had a life of its own, and the worlds he created refused to fade into silence. His plays continued to be performed, treasured, and studied, his words traveling across oceans and crossing the boundaries of language and culture. Even now, more than 400 years later, his voice remains as powerful as ever. Students still grapple with his poetry. Actors still dream of playing his heroes and villains, and audiences around the globe still feel the timeless emotions he so masterfully captured. His influence is woven into the very fabric of modern English. Words we use every day, like lonely, generous, and excitement, first found their expression in his works. The tale of William Shakespeare is a powerful reminder that a boy from a small town can change the world, not with a sword or a crown, but with the enduring magic of stories and the infinite power of language.